Hello and welcome to Unequal Sequel.
Extra.
Guess what, guys? Rich is ill again.
Oh. I'm not as ill as I have been. It's not like life-threatening illness.
It's not COVID, and it's not life-threatening.
No, it's just like stomach flu.
Oh, I have to say, he's quite a picture. I'm going to paint the picture. He sat here looking pretty sorry for himself in his dressing gown, which looks like it could be some kind of lumberjack dressing gown. Looks smart.
It's a nice dressing gown.
His beard's quite long. His hair's all muffed up. He looks... It's a sight. I've seen him worse, though. I've seen you worse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you see me hungover after the first night of my stag do. That's probably
the worst I've ever
looked.
seen you. It's one of my favourite... One of those pictures I look back at, just if I'm down and I need to be cheered up, that's one of the pictures I look at because it's fantastic. You did have a fantastic weekend, though, right? You were rugby involved?
Yeah. So my son was poorly Thursday. He was feeling a bit poorly because it was well booked day. He really wants to go to school.
Oh, what did he go as?
So he went as Loki. There are a lot of these Loki books. So not Marvel Loki, but Loki from his books that he likes. It's not too dissimilar. It's just an 11-year-old boy version of Loki, essentially.
Right, good.
But anyway, yeah. So he really wanted to go to school, and he came back from school, and he was clearly really poorly. Yeah. And then Friday, I was working from home, luckily, and he was really poorly Friday. And then my wife was starting to feel poorly Saturday as well. But luckily, I went to Bath to watch the rugby with my dad.
Good.
So I went off to that. I was feeling fine. I left them with the in-laws to look after them and went off to the rugby. And then yesterday was Mother's Day. No, Gloucester did not win.
Okay.
It was only a friendly. It was like Gloucester's under-10s versus a full-strength Bath team. Because it's the Six Nations, no one's playing very much at the minute.
But that was a good game. England-Ireland was fantastic.
Yeah, I watched England-Ireland in the pub, and then we went out, had dinner afterwards, and then I drove us all back from Bath. And then, yeah, Anna was feeling poorly. And then Sunday was obviously Mother's Day. We had a really chilled out Mother's Day. Didn't go and see any mums. I didn't see my mum or like my stepmum or Anna's mum because everyone was poorly and we didn't want to spread it around. And I thought, do you know what? I'll go away with this. I've got through a whole weekend and I'm feeling absolutely chipper. And yeah, and we had, Anna was feeling better. So we had a nice dinner on Sunday night. And then about 3 o'clock this morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, Sunday night, I was like, something doesn't feel quite right. Yeah.
So there was movements in some places. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Anyway, well, I've started today. I've started something we've been talking about do for a while.
Yes.
And it is the great re-listen to record the scores of all our review episodes.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
I've only done 3 so far, but the great... We've come far, my friend. Are you just skipping
to the end? I take it you're not like...
No, I'm listening to all those bad boys.
Oh, wow. That's going to take you a long time.
Well, the first few episodes we tried to keep under half an hour. Do you remember those days?
I do remember those days, yeah.
And our extra episodes are not going to go over 30 minutes. It's our pledge, it's our promise. We abandoned that pretty quickly, I believe. But it's quite funny to see how we've progressed as podcasters and reviewers, and the sound quality, and when certain things have come in. I think the extra bit didn't really appear until episode 3. The first 2 episodes we didn't do a proper outro. It's chaotic but brilliant.
Well, because we didn't plan to do it, did we?
No.
We never planned to do extra episodes, and it's just kind of come along.
And I just listened to when we reviewed Fast 9, which I'm not very fond of anymore. But when I first watched it, I was like, this is fun. 4 stars or whatever. 3.5 stars. Brilliant. And now I'd be like, that is a 2-star film now. I have to watch it. Anyway, should we get going on what we're talking about today?
Yeah, I mean, probably a bit of a strange one, isn't it?
It's a bit of a weird one.
But hey, it's a sequel and it's come out. And it's a sequel to the 2019 movie Code 8, which is a Netflix movie based on a short by Jeff Chan, his director. Kind of like not really done very much, relatively up and coming. I think the short was kind of well received.
Yeah.
And he's done like Code 8 for Netflix.
There was a crowdfunder campaign to get the first one made or something. That's why at the end of the first one, it goes on forever because it thanks everyone, 30,000 people that put money towards it. Well, bless them.
Yeah. So it got made through crowdfunding. It stars Robbie Amell. Is it Armel?
I don't know, mate.
And is it his brother?
It's his cousin.
His cousin, Stephen Armel.
Now, Robbie's the most famous one, I would say, right?
I think so, yeah. I don't know, because I don't really know what else
Well, Robbie's he was the Green Arrow in the TV show Green Arrow, which went on for like 9 seasons, did very well.
Gotcha.
The other one, I'm not quite sure what he's done, but his face looks familiar. I mean, they do look alike in the film, so it's amazing they're not playing family.
He was in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is, by all accounts, a terrible sequel that I haven't seen, because I haven't seen any Resident Evils. But
the Welcome to Raccoon City is not attached to the other Resident Evil films. It's a standalone film.
I have listened to the sequelizers fix it, though.
Oh, okay. I bet they did a much better job from what it was. Yeah. Okay, so there's Code 8 in 2019.
Yeah, so it's basically the 2019 one. It is about a society where some people have superpowers. People with powers are pretty much oppressed by a very oppressive police force that uses drones and stuff. And so having powers is a bad thing, not a good thing. Sort of like the opposite of superhero stories. And there's a guy who's like a construction worker, and his mum is sick, and he's trying to get money to pay for her treatment. He falls in with like a criminal. So his mum is sick, and to get money to help her, he falls in with a criminal gang. And he ends up doing some small jobs for them and gets more and more into the gang. You know how these things go.
Oh yeah, I do. All the time.
Yeah, and I'm not going to spoil the end or anything like that, but, he gets involved with the gang and things happen. His mum looks about 8 years older than him.
Do you question the whole mum thing, have to say as well? I was surprised. Yes, good. I'm glad we both felt that way. I was like, Mum, fuck it up.
He looks about 35 and she looks about 40.
How old is he meant to be in that first film then? I
don't know. I would imagine in his 20s.
Okay, he does look a bit older than that, bless him.
He looks a bit old. He looks like mid-30s, and I'd say she looks like early 40s.
So that's the Stephen Amell was playing the good guy.
No, well, he's a criminal.
Oh, is he that?
No,
which one's Robbie and which one's Stephen?
Robbie's the kid. Robbie's the main guy, and Stephen is like the guy who gets him into the gang.
I might have got it wrong earlier when I was describing these two.
Oh, okay. So is Stephen the one who was the Green Arrow then? Oh,
Stephen might have been the Green Arrow guy.
Stephen's the Green Arrow guy. He's not the main guy in this.
He was also in the second Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film. He played Casey Jones.
Oh, okay. Right, okay. Gotcha.
Clogs are swirling now. Okay, keep going. You're doing great, mate.
Yeah, so stuff happens in that movie, and essentially, I mean, I don't want to give it all away, but he ends up in prison. So Connor, who's the main guy, ends up in prison. The next movie takes place 5 years later when he gets out of prison. Yeah. So he's now out of prison, and he's running like a youth centre, or he's volunteering at a youth centre.
He's like the handyman at the youth centre.
Yeah, like doing something at a youth centre, essentially. There is a girl who goes to the youth centre whose brother gets killed by one of these drone dogs. So they replace the drone policeman with drone dogs for some reason. And she witnesses her brother get killed by one. And then there's a corrupt police officer who's trying to track her down so that he can silence her so she doesn't tell people about these drone dogs killing people with powers, I think. Yeah,
and the other guy.
Yeah, and the other guy, comes back into it because he's still around and being a criminal and has police connections somehow. I don't know. It's a bit muddled.
I think overall you did a good description of those films.
I mean, it's sort of like a really long episode of Black Mirror in lots of ways. Bit.
A little bit, but
not as good.
Not as good. I really liked some of the aspects of this. Like for such a small budget, they made the visual effects very good. I thought so too. Surprisingly good. Like especially that first one, I was like, "How much they make this for?" And it looks better than most big budget
I
films.
think some of his electric effects look a bit shaky in places.
Yes.
Because, sorry, we should have said Connor's an electric.
A level 5.
He said he thinks he's a level 2, but then he finds out he's a level 5 later on. He's really strong.
Yeah. I liked the concept of the world they're building in this film. Like, it is like an very different to any other superhero film.
Yeah.
Or people with powers film, because the people with powers are the ones that are being hunted, kind of thing, and prosecuted and stuff like that. And they, like Rich said in the first film, that the superhero, I got to stop because they're not super. No one's flying around or has got super speed. Some people have strength. They pretty much built the city that everyone's living in, and they're not allowed to use their powers to do things. They're being which is a weird thing.
Controlled, yeah. It's called Lincoln City, isn't it? It's like
Lincoln City.
Not an actual American city. It's called Lincoln City.
So overall, the concept is good. And when you mentioned it, I had never heard it in my life. And I don't think you had it. You're just researching, right?
Yeah, I was just looking.
So we were researching it. And well, you researched it, and you're like, I found a sequel, because I was like, I don't know what we're going to do this week. And then you found a sequel and said, have you ever heard of Code 8? I said, no, what's that? And you said, I don't know. But it's on Netflix, and the sequel is just come out on Netflix, and it's doing very well on the Netflix charts. It's number 1. The part 1 came back in. It's weird that we've done June part 2, and then we're doing Code 8 part 2. First question I have to ask you, what the fuck does Code 8 mean?
I don't know. I didn't get any of that.
No. Okay, good.
I was trying to think of that. Like, what relevance does Code 8 have?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know at all. I
swear it's not mentioned in either of these films.
No, I don't think
it's a bit of a head scratcher, but I was like, okay, I don't understand what's going on there. But so the first film and the second film, I kind of watched them as like when I watched Good Burger 1 and 2 and Vacation Friends 1 and 2, because I hadn't seen the original or whatever before. And I think I kind of enjoyed the first one. It's not what I expected.
I was surprised by the first one, actually, because I didn't know anything about it either.
Yeah. I
was literally like, oh, this is there's a sequel. Admittedly, it came out like right at the end of February, so we're a little bit late.
It's fine. It's still riding high in the Netflix chat.
Yeah, I think it took a little while for people to pick it up. But yeah, so I watched the first one and I was like, do you know what? This is actually quite interesting. It's pretty cheesy in places.
The themes are good, though, yeah.
But yeah, it's got a strong kind of plot, and it's decent. It's got Han from Fast and Furious in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, he is missing from the second one.
He is. He's not in the second one.
They needed a good cop character somewhere.
They did, and they bring back his partner, don't they? The Aaron Abrams, who wasn't the good cop in the first one. He was like the bad cop in the first one. They bring him back as the good cop in the second one. Doesn't quite work.
I suppose they couldn't afford.
Yeah, they couldn't bring Han back. Well, I think he's called Park in this, isn't he?
Yes, and his storyline, he's got a daughter that has powers, so that makes that a little bit more interesting, about him hunting people with powers, but his daughter has powers, and he wants people with powers all to be included, and blah blah blah. Great, really liked it. And then at the end of that one, I was like, oh, that was interesting. I'll put on part 2 and see where that goes. And I think I should have had probably more of a gap between part 1 and 2, because part 2 definitely doesn't play as well as part 1.
It doesn't, does it? It's not as interesting as part 1. It doesn't really do very much with what it's got. It's not about... There's in the interesting relationships that Connor and Garrett have in the first one, and the kind of mentoring him into a bad, a life of crime kind of thing, and that, or just kind of
letting him know about his powers more. Yeah,
building his powers, that kind of thing.
And there's a couple of good set pieces in that first one.
And but then in part 2, Connor's powers seem to be like not as good as they were in part 1.
Maybe that's because he's sad what happens to him at the end of part 1. A minute ago you said he goes to prison, and I know he does go to prison, but on the end of the first film, he goes on the run first, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. So we don't know he's in prison until the second film. Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have said that, should I? But,
that's fine, because I think that's also not well linked between the first two films. The first two films. There's only 2 films.
Yeah.
So far. do you like? Do you feel it like it plays because it's got those themes and it wants to be a proper film, and I don't mean to disrespect it in any way here, if that makes what I'm saying, because they work really hard to make the films, and like I said, the visual effects are really good and the themes are really good, and I like that whole it's very different to other people with powers superhero films, because you think at some point that it's going to take off, do something silly, and it never goes there.
No,
which in a way makes it different and more
I
refreshing.
wonder if maybe having a bit more restriction in budget was better for it. And now Netflix have got involved with this second one, and it's got
they
a
bought
bit
the
more
rights
money.
to the second one, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yes.
that maybe they've not had to be quite so clever, potentially.
That's I want to talk about, because in the first one they got the robot men, which I think looked really cool, really menacing.
Yeah, they did.
And then in the second film they go for the robot dogs.
Yeah,
and the robot dogs is the CGI, which sometimes lets it down. And what it reminded me of, and stay with me on this one, is, and you might not have seen the second film, but between Tremors 1 and 2.
I've not seen Tremors 2. I've seen Tremors, but I don't
Tremors
think I've
is
seen
one
Tremors
with the big
2.
worm, scary.
Yeah,
The second
love
one,
Tremors.
they introduce these little wormy things that can like fly and walk around and have little legs, and you think,
That's spoiled it.
the worms were scarier when you couldn't see what was going on, kind of thing. And I don't know why I linked these two films, because they're very, very different. I just thought, like you, they should have kind of stepped. The men look really cool, the robots, I thought.
Yeah.
And the reason they not use them in the second so much because they were
of the events
erratic.
in the first one. Yeah, so but essentially because of the events in the first one, they wanted to make their drones a bit friendlier, and apparently dogs with no heads are friendlier than man-sized drones.
That's a bit weird.
It was very weirdly explained. So I don't know. I feel like, you sort of feel for Connor in the first one and his predicament that he's in. He's trying to save his mum, basically. In this one, he's kind of reluctantly trying to look after this girl. He's not like he's very invested in it. Like he's actually not that fussed about her that much.
Yes.
And it kind of just doesn't really ring true. And then, like the main bad guy in this one, like there's a big reveal that I'm not going to spoil because people might not have seen it and they want to watch it. But
if we can
the
get away
main
with not
bad
spoiling
guy
both
in
of
it,
these, that'd be great, by the way.
yeah, we try. There's a reveal of him and it just doesn't really land. You're like, oh yeah, so what?
Because his mate, what is his name?
Which one? What do you mean?
The drug dealer guy.
Garrett.
Garrett. I'm still not quite sure if we were meant to like him or dislike him or cheer for him or root for them to be friends. Their relationship to me is frosty.
But that's
cold.
I think that's sort of the good thing from the first one is you're not too sure whether you like Garrett or not. And whether
by the
Garrett is
second one,
good
you
or
should
not.
know not to trust him.
Yeah. In the second one, you should definitely know not to trust him, but also whether he's someone that you can trust more than other people. I don't know. It's an interesting one. And apparently there's going to be a 3. Apparently the third one is coming.
There is plans, and I think they might get it, because I'm not quite sure how Netflix work there. Because it's nothing to do about box office or anything. It's just about people who press play and watch it. Zack Snyder was the other day was bigging up how many people have watched Rebel Moon. And,
I haven't.
Good. Well, you are going to have to watch it one day, and I can't wait.
I know.
But I think that's a kind of not the best way of. Well, I suppose it is a good way of doing it because people are watching it. I mean, this is done well on Netflix. It's in the top 10. Number 1, part 2 is number 1. I think while we're talking, it's brought part 1 back in the top 10 in the UK, which is I don't know about the world. So I think a part 3, I think on a certain budget they'll do it. Do you see anywhere that it can go at the end of that? They can't have another story of these two going, will they, won't they be friends kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a difficult one as well, isn't it? You can't. Connor should be at what he should know his powers a bit better now. Yeah, and the second one sort of ends with him going back to the youth centre and opening it up, and so maybe that's where a third one will go. It'll be about protecting kids with powers, and
we're turning to X-Men now, aren't we?
Yeah, well, basically, that's kind
which
of
might be cool.
And there's this whole power revolution I think is coming. There's this whole thing like people with powers will eventually rise up and stop being oppressed by these robot dudes.
Have we mentioned the drug they're trying to take out of people?
Oh, we haven't. Yeah. So the drug is called Psych, and it's made of the spinal fluid of people with powers. And it doesn't give you any powers or anything, but it makes...
Is it a high?
I guess it's some sort of massive high. So in the first one, they're basically like, the bad guys are taking spinal fluid from people with powers who are really down their luck and they're really mistreated. The idea in this one is that Garrett has somehow reformed that system so that he's now mining spinal fluid from people with powers, but treating them well and giving them a shithole to live in. And
in the first one, there's quite a scene there's a scene when there's like a psych farm and it's just a bunch of people being drained, and that was quite horrific. And then the second one, I can't work out what he's doing. Because he's still trying to. I thought by the end of the first film that the people with powers are now not allowed in the city or something, or they have to go on a register or something. Yeah,
I think there's some sort of register or something, but he's paying off the police, isn't he? That's right. The whole thing. So that's how he gets away with it. Essentially, his like slum that he owns, that he runs,
like a tower block or something.
Yeah, he's paying the police off to stay out of there, and that's where he farms the Psych from.
Yeah. He, as a character, I don't like that character.
No, it's a weird one.
It's a weird character because I'm sure you're meant to be like rooting for the people with power, and for that side, you're like, well, he should fucking die. The other character, you're like, oh, he's being nice and being good. And in the first film, you're seeing that they're using their powers for good, for building houses, but then the police shut them up. So I don't know if it's heading. I think the revolution idea is probably the way they're going to go with it. The people with powers.
It seems like the obvious idea, doesn't it?
Which will be really cool. And quite violent. These films are quite violent in places, which is nice. Aren't there 15 or 18s or something?
15, I think. The second one's a 15. The first one is a 15. Yeah, they're both 15s, and they're both quite short. They're about an hour and 40 minutes long.
Which
and about 10 minutes of that is credits. So,
especially the first one, because of the whole crowdfunder or whatever it is. They're like, thank you for everyone. I think they raised like $3 million or something. So it's quite incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely. Why they made it and got it made and got it out there, and they, I
think the short film was also called Code 8, and I think that was really well received.
Maybe that's where the Code 8 thing comes from.
Yeah, I guess so. I haven't actually seen the short.
No, I didn't know it was a short until I read a little bit on Wikipedia earlier.
Yeah, but that's got the Robbie Amell and Stephen Amell and Hahn in it as well, and yeah, same sort of cast. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the short.
The poster of the second one makes it look like those two people are going to be friends, but they're really not. Do you want to have a sequelizers game? But it is a sequelizers game.
Yeah, we stole it.
Yeah, the Rotten Tomato, Code 8, Part 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Okay.
See if you're in line with what people are thinking. So we're going to do the Part 1 first.
Part 1, I think it kind of passed me by, really. But 2019, maybe it came out the wrong time in 2019. Was it like COVID times?
Yeah, but shouldn't it have done better at COVID times on Netflix? Well, I suppose
maybe.
Did it come out straight on Netflix, or did they try and put it in cinemas first?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure what date it actually came out in 2019.
There's only 21 reviews on the Code 8
I don't think it was big originally. But having said that, I think there's enough in it. I've relatively enjoyed it. So I'm going to say about 61%.
For critics on Part 1?
For critics, yeah.
Okay. It's 81%.
Oh, good. Wow, that's better than I thought.
Again, it's only 21 reviews, but there's one that humorless but unpretentious. The film will play well those seeking new takes on superhero tropes, which I thought was an interesting way to do it.
It's true,
are bored of the Marvel and DC stuff.
And it is pretty... They are pretty humorless. There's no fun in them, really.
It's not funny. Yeah, no. It's no funny. It's very grounded, I would say. Audience score.
I would see our audience score. I was going to go up to like sort of 80, so maybe I'll keep it in there. So yeah, I'd stick with like 83,
62.
Oh, that's weird. That's the opposite of what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Code 8 part. It's weird that I think the first one they didn't. I think they wanted to make more, but they didn't call it a part 1 or anything. They just called it Code 8. It's not like a Dune where it opened up with like part 1. I mean, like,
yeah, no, it definitely wasn't. I don't think it was meant to be. Yeah, maybe plans for a trilogy, but hedging their bets that might not ever make another one.
Yeah. So Code 8 part 2, 15 reviews. So this is how under the radar this film is.
Yeah, it's not as good as part 1. But I still think it's about a 3-star movie kind of territory. So I'm going to... So they said... Critics said 80 for part 1.
81.
Maybe I'll go with my score for part 1 for part 2 then. I'm going to go with... So I said 61 for part 1. So I'm going to go 61 for part 2.
67.
Not far. Not far off. And then audience score for...
Audience score.
Part 2 was lower than I thought it was going to be. I don't think this one will be. I think this will still be in the... I'd have said this was in the 60s. I'm going to 64.
62.
Oh. Weren't far off.
You weren't far off. As sequels go to Code 8 Part 2 is top tier, someone wrote.
It's not. It's not top tier.
A solid follow-up to the original Code 8.
Solid is more, yeah.
What it loses in freshness, it makes up with a story which does a better job of integrating the superpower lore with the street-level crime narrative.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think it does. What's interesting enough about the movie is the way that it integrates the powers and into sort of society. I like it that the powers aren't being celebrated for some reason. They're being seen like it's a bad thing. I think they're definitely trying to use the powers as in a way of looking at society and how certain whoever has been downridden and stuff out the centuries. Yeah. So I mean the themes are interesting, and if I would say go and watch the first one. And if you like the first one, I think... Give the second one a go. Bearing in mind it's probably not quite as good. Yes. But both on Netflix, both pretty short, both action/sci-fi, both CGI are remarkably good for a small budget film. I would say you can probably watch both of these movies and have more fun than you can watching one Zack Snyder movie. Oh, I thought you were going to say a Madam Web movie or something like that. Yeah, definitely Madam Web. Yeah, it is better. It's better. It's much better than Madam Web. But I wouldn't say it's definitely. When someone said it's humorless, that is true. It's not a fun watch. It is grounded. I mean, it is fun. It's not funny. Like in places it's fun, but it does take itself very seriously. Yeah, I don't think. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's not fun, because I don't think all films have to be fun to be good. But the scenes that stand out are from the first film. I'm trying to think about part 2's standout scenes. Probably the start where the dog is hunting the brother. Yeah, that's quite good. All the bits with the dog. There's like a siege bit that's okay. That goes into the end, I guess. Yeah, I think the end's the weakest bit for me. Like, it's just sort of fizzles. It feels like it's trying to say something, but it doesn't really say it with enough conviction to... True. In a good way. I mean, if there is a part 3, and I think the idea is now to carry on a little bit, because why else would you call it a part 2 kind of thing? I think a part 3, I think, like you said, the uprising is coming. I'd like to see more. I would watch a third one. I wouldn't. Yeah, me too. I definitely, especially on a Netflix. I think this would be a good for a Netflix film. What do we think? Unequal sequel, or yes, just. It's close. Unequal, and not in a good way, but I would. It's okay. Yeah. It's close though, right? It's not like... Yes. I think it could have been done with that little bit more, I don't know what the word I'm trying to... star quality, or... I think that's what the policeman's brought from the first film, that way he was trying to find them, hunt them down, and that's not in the second one. I mean,
in the second one, it's not really, there's not really a focus on a good guy. It's like bad people with bad people. I know he's one of the characters is trying to do good things,
but they're all bad.
But they're not really good people.
No,
I think
that's true.
That it struggles a little bit there. But out of 7, Rich, what were you saying?
I would say for part 2, I think about like a 3.5 out of 7.
I think that's, I would say 3. Is that mean?
I think 3's a bit harsh. Because I'd say it's right bang in the middle. So if it was out of 5, it'd be a 2.5 out of 5. 3.5 out of 7. I think that's
bang. Okay, you've convinced me to say 3.5. Is that a recommendation from us?
Yeah, it's fine. I would say if you're bored, and you like the, you want to watch the first one and the second one together. But yeah, by all means, go for it.
If you're bored of the big flashy Marvel DC films and you want a different take, then.
But I definitely watch the first one over the second one.
Definitely start with the first one.
Yeah.
Because when you get to the second one, it'd be like, who the fuck? Who's that?
Yeah. Don't just go into the second one because you won't understand. It very much is a part 2. It very much is a part 2. So make sure you watch the first bit.
Builds the universe.
Yeah.
Quite nicely in some places. And this one just carries on, but doesn't go far enough. Or I think we're all waiting for what might happen in part 3 if it happens. And I don't know if that'd be a good way or a bad way. But anyway, Rich, can you tell the nice people about us?
I can very quickly because I don't feel very well. But if you liked our review of Code 8, if you've never heard of Code 8 at all, and now you're inspired to go and watch Code 8 and Code 8 Part 2, this is the sort of quality you can expect from us, even when we're feeling poorly. So go back and listen to all our other episodes. Hit the download button, hit the auto download button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll drop into your popular choice every single week. We are coming soon with Series 6 of our interview episodes. We've got more interviews lined up to record. All good stuff. That will be coming very soon. So keep your ears to the ground for that one. And possibly some really big names. But, let's just cross our fingers a little bit on that one.
Yes, please.
But yeah, so if you really, really love us, get onto anotherslice.com/unequal sequel. We've got some really good stuff coming out in Another Slice, some interesting reviews of different types of movies going on there. So go and listen to that. Get in touch on the social medias. Tell us what you thought of Code 8. We're on all social medias. We're at Unequal Sequel on all of them, including like Letterboxd and TikTok, and we're on YouTube now. But yeah, you can find us on everything at Twitter and Threads and all that stuff. Come and say hello. If you don't do social media, you can drop us an email. We are unequalsequel@hotmail.com. Tell us what you thought of Code 8, and yeah, we'll read out your stuff at the end of month roundup.
Very good, very good. Next week, I'm not quite sure what we're doing yet. Well, I think we'll find something to do, another sequel.
We'll find something, yeah. I'll find the sequel from somewhere. It'll be fine.
We'll do something sequel related because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Send your thoughts in. If you've seen Code 8 Part 2, let us know. If you've seen any other film we've talked about in the last month, which is Dune Part 2 or Madam Web, send your thoughts in to us on them, and we'll read them out at the end of month roundup. And that's all I've got to say. So it's a goodbye from me. Bye-bye. And a goodbye from him.
Bye.
See you on the next one. Stick with this one. Have a good week. Bye.